Hello and welcome to Miter Saw Safety with Mrs. Wick. So we need to review safety instructions before we use the miter saw. And then after you review all safety instructions on the PowerPoint, you need to take your safety test and pass at 100%. So to start, we need to review the parts of the miter saw, and these are important for you to understand how to use the miter saw and what are we referring to as we go through this PowerPoint. So you can see that the blade is important, the blade guard, the dust bag, the fence, and the trigger. So you must know how to turn your machine on and off. Each miter saw may be set up differently, so make sure you are aware of where these parts are located on the saw before you use it. One of the most important things is the on and off trigger, and if there is a safety mechanism before you can use this button. I want to talk about the blade. So we need to make sure that we are using the correct blade. For this presentation, I'm going to refer to wood. Miter saws can also cut ceramic, porcelain, slate, metal, wood, and plastic. There are different blades for each of these. We are going to concentrate on the wood cutting today. So you have to make sure you have the correct blade in place before you can use your miter saw. So the miter saw is a very dangerous tool in the workshop, and you need to make sure that you are using it properly. There are estimated 6,800 annual injuries from using the miter saw. Some of these injuries include injuries to eyes and injuries to the off hand or the opposite hand. As we talk about eye injuries, we need to make sure that everyone is safe and using proper eye and ear protection. I included a pair of safety glasses in this presentation, ear mufflers, and ear plugs. So choose what you're provided with to protect your eyes and your ears. You can also use a face shield for your eyes to protect them. Other injuries from miter saws can include improper installation or damage to the saw's components. Sawdust, splinters, or chunks of wood that leave the saw can get into your eyes. So that is why it is very important to wear your eye protection. Other injuries can occur if you are wearing gloves. Gloves can get caught in the saw and get wrapped around, and you can not only hurt your finger, your whole arm can get caught. No loose clothing, jewelry, or dangling objects that can also get caught in the miter saw. So remove any of those items and make sure you are wearing fitted clothing or something that is not loose and dangling when you are using this piece of machinery. One of the most important features of the miter saw for safety is the guards. So the guard moves up and down as your saw comes down, the guard raises up, so the blade is exposed and you can cut your wood. So before you use the miter saw, make sure that this blade guard is working correctly. Pull your saw up and down a couple times and make sure it's moving with the blade. If it is not working properly, do not use the saw. Contact your teacher so this can be fixed. Hand and arm placement is very vital in the protection of your extremities while you use the miter saw. You want to avoid contact with the blade. Do not reach across your cutting area. Don't use your opposite arm to hold your board in place while you are cutting. As you can see in the picture, this can result in injuries. To maintain a safe distance while using the miter saw, keep your hands and fingers at least 6 inches from the blade. Never reach in to grab anything while the blade is spinning. Always make sure it comes to a complete stop. When you use the miter saw to make a cut, only use a recommended blade size. Make sure the saw is running at full speed before cutting the wood or other material. And hold your board tight against the fence while cutting so you avoid kickbacks and any splinters flying while if your board is loose. Never force the blade through your cut. If there's resistance, stop and remove the blade from the wood. While using the sliding miter saw, start with cutting the blade with the cutting blade closest to you, and then push the blade forward as you cut. So you're pushing it away from yourself and not cutting towards yourself. Only cut with approved materials. Use materials that are free from screws and nails. If there are screws and nails in them, remove them. Do not use wet, rotten, or warped wood, as you can see the example of the warped wood. Never cut tiny pieces of material. This is when finger injuries and cuts happen. When using the miter saw, use the safety clamp to hold down your boards. This will ensure that you do not get kickback, and it holds the wood in place while you cut. As you can see, I included a stand for your miter saw. This stand provides support for you while you're using your board, cutting your long boards, and gives you a workspace that is at the level that you need. Make sure that your saw is clamped down securely to the stand, and your saw can be adjusted moving right or left on this stand depending on where you need the saw located. Never use your miter saw on the floor. For your workspace, make sure the table is clean and free from dust and debris. Clean your work area regularly at the end of your work time. If pieces of wood get stuck in the track, clean them out by using a device or brush. Make sure long pieces of wood are level with the cutting table. As you can see by using the stand, this will help you keep them level. Fellow classmates and students should be clear from your workspace while you are using the miter saw. Finally, if your saw is not running properly, stop and tell the teacher. Never try to clean or fix anything that is broken on your saw. Go to the teacher and allow them to use the proper tools and equipment to fix the issues that arise. So this is your PowerPoint on miter saw safety. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your teacher. Please complete the test questions, and after you pass with 100%, you may be able to use the miter saw. Thanks and good luck, students.